What's up, party people? This is Tarkus Mossberg here from Facebook Jude's Junk, Facebook comic book shop and YouTube channel. Trying to get a workout in with a little one, 8-year-old kid. It's kind of hard. So I'm doing more videos out and about just because I keep hearing that for all 12 followers I have, people like to get to know the person a little more personally that's having these conversations about whatever we have in common. So anyways, this is my life at night. It's about 33 degrees, 32 degrees, a little bit below freezing. So I just did a video about variants. Someone was asking about variants and which variant should I get, that kind of thing. And I brought up Absolute Batman, and I was just listening to Swaggelhoss talk about how the Absolute Batman #1s are going through the roof. And he's kind of poking fun at so many collectors in the comic book community. And I just did a video on we as collectors should show more respect. So this isn't that kind of video, but it's similar, it's related. But anyways, he was making fun of all the people on the social media platforms that are just getting mad that Absolute Batman #1 is selling for more than what a Wolverine 1 would sell for. And my guess is that's a 1987, 88 Wolverine 1. And I have to agree with him. I was going to try to do a kind of devil's advocate type thing just because it's interesting conversation. But he brings up the point that there's so many people that don't like how other people collect. And I just did a whole video on respect. People use terminology as if this is gold, if this is stocks, as if there's a flat set value out there. You know, how much is this worth? Okay, usually we understand that to mean what is the 90-day average. But that's not the fair market value for everybody. It could be the 12-month average is the fair market value for someone. It could be the last sale is a fair market value for someone. So if I'm looking at last sale in a declining market and thinking that's fair value, and someone is looking at a 90-day sale, we could be $100, $200 off, if not $1,000 off. So everybody, you know, fair market doesn't mean, and I've talked about this many times, what's a fair price to pay? That's not what it means. And I think people have just used fair market value and think, hey, that's not fair. And then they get mad because what you're selling it for isn't fair. Oh, that's fair. So I'm gonna take advantage of the low sell. They think that there's some intrinsic value in a comic book. So a comic book that's 40 years old that has a similar number of 9/8 as an Absolute Batman should be worth more. That's the argument people make. And I have to agree with Swaggelhoss. You know, supply and demand is supply and demand. Not everybody collects for value. Not everybody's collecting for return on investment. Some people just want, and I talked about this in the Respect book, they just want to collect what they want to collect. That's why collectibles is such a volatile, different market. It's very hard. It's harder than stocks. You can be a Warren Buffett. You can read the profit and loss statements and you can figure out, hey, this company is making money and they're going in the right direction. This company is losing money, they're going in the wrong direction. You can look at gold and maybe there's some economic reasons the gold might go up or down, but it is, the gold here and the gold in Africa is worth the same. It's not the same with comic books. And I think we think that everybody should collect the way I do. It's just a very myopic, maybe some would say American way of viewing it, that if you don't collect like me, then you're a fool. If you collect books for the art and not to read them, then you're a fool. If you collect graded books and not raw books, then you're a fool. If you only collect moderns and not old books, you're a fool. And I did just a whole video on showing respect to each other, and how important that is and how it's not being done, and why this industry can just be difficult because there's a lot of disrespect among people. We're all trying to get someone over. Every collector thinks, I want to pay $10 less than the last guy. Not every. Some of you guys aren't like that. But some guys are like, hey, if the last sale was $200, I want to get it for $190. I don't care what it is. The last sale was 200. I want to save 10 bucks so I can feel like I got something over it. I talked about how, it's like going to the border of Arizona and Mexico and wanting to haggle with the poor people selling the little trinkets along the border. I used to do that when I was a kid, growing up in Phoenix. So not everybody does it just to try to, save $10 off the last sale. Some people do, and that's their mantra and their life goal, and that's okay. Get what you want, and if you feel good that you save money, wait till you try to sell them, and you realize they don't sell for what you think they should sell for, and then you get upset and maybe leave the industry. So this concept that we all just look at collecting and we think other people should collect the way we do. No, a lot of mature people don't. They're like, whatever. I do it just like art. It is like art. It's more like art than it is like a commodity. Someone looks at a book and they say, that book isn't worth $5,000. I have a Watchmen #1, signed and sketched by the artist, and the last 2 sales have been $5,000. I put it up for $5,000. Everyone thinks you're crazy. His signature's not worth that, whatever. Okay. That would be like me putting together an art store and having my art pieces on the wall and saying that they're worth 10,000 bucks. Everybody that doesn't buy art is going to say that is worthless. Who buys that invisible piece of art for $1 million, or the one with the banana for $1 million, or any of the stupid pieces of art that art collectors buy for lots and lots of money? Even if it's a $40 million piece of art, it's not much different than what we're doing. The more rare it is, the higher the value is. That's why individual art pages, unique pieces of art, sell for much, much more, like the original art for these comic books. So we're more like art stores. I go in, what piece of art speaks to me? And the great thing about comic books is it can speak to us in many different ways. It can speak to us through the cover. It can speak to us through the nostalgia of what that book brings to mind. And that nostalgia might be the cover. It might be the story. We read the story. It might have been the movie. We watched the movie at a certain age, and it just brings us back. That's why all these people that watched all these Marvel movies over the last 20 years, the nostalgia of the comic book is going to remind them of the movie more than people like me, where the movie reminds me more of the comic books. So nostalgia speaks to them. The art, the story. I think the Absolute Batman is supposed to be a good story. I haven't read it. I'm not going to read it. I don't read comic books. I haven't read comic books in years. And the ones I did, I don't know if you know this, but those stories from the 60s, a lot of those guys were like teenagers when they wrote the stories, and they wrote them to teenagers. That's why the storylines are pretty silly. But anyways, and then in the 80s, the stories got better with Alan Moore and with Ryman. Is that his name? That was on Neil Gaiman, Claremont with the X-Men, brought that back to life. It was a dying breed, just doing reprints in the early numbers 50 to 100, and then in '94 they did a reboot, and Claremont blew that up, and it got real popular for hundreds of issues. So, maybe there's a lack of good stories, and we've all been complaining that there's a lack of good stories right now. Everybody wants art. Everything that Todd puts out, it's all about art. I mean, are people really reading all of his Spawn books? Maybe there's some people. Maybe there's some people are. Maybe there's a lot of people that are doing that. I don't see those people talking about it because he's always specialized. That's been his thing. Get the great artists and we can sell bad stories. That's been the storyline for what Todd has done since 1992 when they invented Image. All the top artists came over. None of them were writers. They were all artists. And they wanted to get paid better because in the 80s, artists weren't getting paid as good as writers. I believe that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the volume 2 of Batman that came out, was it Snyder? Number 100 to 120, 118, I think. Those were very, very popular. Everyone liked that storyline and they were buying that. So I'm not sure why Absolute Batman is blowing up. Maybe it's the story. Or maybe it's getting optioned. I haven't really paid attention to that. I did just get a number 15, cover A, 9.8. It's $50. That's what it would cost me to grade it. So I just pre-ordered a 9.8 off Lost Boys. That's the second time I've brought you up, Charlie, in my videos. So get some of your new modern books, pre 9.8s from him. Great guy to work with. But I think we should all just really realize there is no one way to do it. I like doing it my way. You like doing it your way, and they like doing it their way. And everybody's way is different. And some people love trading. Some people never want to sell. Some people only like raws. Some people like to have 20,000 comp books. That makes me want to throw up. It makes me sick to my stomach. I got about 8,000 and I have about 6,000 too many. And my son just read his first comp book. It was like a 1993 Valiant, like some dinosaur, Zorak, something. But he just read it. It was just a random issue, and he read it, and he got all excited about it. So I've tried to get him to read them before, but his reading skills weren't that great. But he's 8 now, and he read it, and he liked it. So I have a whole long box that he can just rip them up, spit on them, read them. And some of them are that 80s trash that has a bunch of naked stuff on it. So not naked, but inappropriate. So I may have to go through and clean out what he can read or not. Anyways, the people that are watching my video are probably on the same path as me. Anybody can just, most of us probably, I don't know, the people that are watching this video, are you going out and spending $300 or $400 on an Absolute Batman 1? Tell me why. Are you thinking it's going to go up in value? Do you just want it because you want it? Do you not care if it goes up in value? Are you going to be bummed if it drops in value? I don't know if anybody watching, because I'm an older guy, and I think a lot of the younger collectors are getting in these moderns. I could be wrong, but younger is anybody under 55, so what do I know? But I'm curious if any of my readers, a lot of the guys I sell to, we're collecting high-end 9.8 books, $1,000 books, $500 books. In fact, when I do brokerage, I only do broker services for books over 500 for clients, because the small stuff is just not worth the time. And so most of my clients that are around the world are looking for bigger books, and I enjoy helping them find them. Anyways, what did I talk about today? I talked about how we should let all collectors collect however they want and be happy with it, and never try to put our expectations of how we collect onto them, and just be surprised and with a sense of joy and wonder about how other people collect. It's fun to learn how other people collect. They don't have to collect. If we all collected like me, it might not be fun. And if we all collected like you, it might not be fun. I know some of you guys, get big books. How am I going to compete with someone who's spending $10,000 on a book every month? And I'd have to get out of the hobby. And that's how some people feel. I can't collect like you because I don't have that kind of money, or I don't have that kind of time, or I can't read that much. I got a busy life. I can't read books, or I don't know where to put 20,000 comic books. I don't have room in my house. So anyways, happy hunting, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.